Your burger is served. And this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
The Willamette Valley was just named the best wine destination in the entire world. And yet, Oregon's wine industry has been struggling. Some of their most recent challenges? Sales are down, tariffs are looming, and immigration crackdowns have rattled vineyard workers, all the while wildfire season is slowly creeping closer. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Portland Business Journal reporter Pete Danko. He's helping us untangle just what's going on with Oregon's wine industry. It's Wednesday, July 2nd. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. So I wasn't aware, Pete, because business is still booming at my house, but in recent years, the Oregon wine industry has been going through a kind of a slump. Pretty much ever since the end of the pandemic, when a lot of people went back to work and stopped day drinking, I'm assuming. So how is the state of the wine industry doing right now? Like, are wineries picking up again, or is it still a challenging time?
It's definitely still a challenging time. I don't think there's really been a lot of signs of improvement. In fact, I would probably say we're kind of still at the depths right now. And, just to be clear, this is a global phenomenon.
Oh, okay.
And California is probably even harder hit than we are here in Oregon.
So there is a silver lining, is what I'm hearing.
Well, if you're optimistic that young people might start drinking wine, that wine can regain some of the market share that it's lost to various other beverages that it's now competing against, right? We've had this rise in canned cocktails and non-alcoholic and et cetera, et cetera. And all of these things have put a lot of pressure on wine in recent years.
I have also heard that they're blaming Gen Z for less beer sales, less wine sales, less everything sales. I mean, do you think there is something to that younger people are drinking less? Or do you think it's more of a financial thing? Like there's just not enough money to buy wine?
That's a great question. I think wine is struggling to figure out what is going on with younger generation. I've been associated with the wine business for about 25 years now, and it's always been a conversation in the wine industry. How do we get younger people, obviously people of age, to drink more wine? The industry has long relied on older, wealthier people. And I think that now we've come to a point where that conversation is more intense because these trends we are seeing. I mean, it is very clear that people in their 20s are drinking less alcohol, period. And wine hasn't really figured out a way, I don't think, to speak to that generation.
Well, I know earlier this year we heard a ton about fears that Trump's tariffs were going to upset the industry. We even had your boss on to talk about some of that reporting that Portland Business Journal did. You guys were talking to some local wine producers who are seeing both big risks, like, oh no, these tariffs, but also they were like, well, maybe blocking other wines from coming into Oregon. Maybe it's our turn over here. So like, what's going on there? And did Trump's tariffs at all affect negatively or positively the Oregon wine industry?
Well, I think so far, tariffs have definitely had a negative effect on the wine industry in Oregon. I would call it a fairly narrow, kind of targeted impact. The big issue that arose was with Canada. Oregon is not a huge wine exporter. Oregon produced in the last year that we have available data, 2023, Oregon wineries sold a total of about 6 million cases of wine. 72,000 cases, about 1.2%, went to Canada. So it's a pretty small portion, right? But if you're a winery that maybe produces 10,000 cases and you've got a 1,000 case sale to Ontario, and suddenly Ontario's saying no to your wine, that's 10% of your sales that are out the door. And that's what happened. So when the tariff fight with Canada intensified, Canada closed the door to U.S. wine. The province of Ontario, one of the biggest markets for Oregon wine in Canada, pulled it off the shelves. And there's now 25% tariffs on Oregon wine, U.S. wine going to Canada.
Oh my God.
And worse than that, though, is that Canadians aren't interested in buying anything from the United States.
I mean, could we blame them?
Not at all. As a kind of a Canadian myself, my parents are Canadian.
Oh, I see. I was like, I'm sorry, in spirit or your heart?
Well, technically, yes. I still do have rights of citizenship in Canada.
Dual citizen?
But
okay.
I'm an American. I'm an Oregonian. But no, it really did disrupt that market. The other part of the tariff picture, though, that is really important to think about is the wine trade in general. So in Oregon, the wine business is more than wineries, it's more than vineyards. There's lots of folks who work in the distribution of wines. And so when the tariffs issue, blew up, there was extraordinary concern about their ability to continue to bring wines in from Europe in particular. The US is Europe's biggest market for wine. And when we were talking about, I think Trump at one point was threatening 200% tariffs on wine from Europe. And that would have literally put many businesses out of business in Oregon that do wine distribution. So that's simmered down a bit now, but there's still concern about where this is going to go. Nobody knows. The other aspect of it to think about is, just like any business, wineries face increased costs due to tariffs. So whether it's, bottles, corks, barrels, et cetera, all of these things. And part of the challenge wine has faced in the last several years is just increased costs. And so this is adding to that issue.
Well, also labor has always been a big concern, just in agriculture in general. And another set of Trump's policies has really affected that as well. Like his mandated ICE raids have left vineyards without a labor force. And we've recently seen stories about the ICE arrest of a well-known vineyard manager, Moses Sotelo Casas. So how is all of that impacting the vineyards in our region?
Yeah, that was a shock.
Are they able to function? What's going on?
That was shocking. I think that really rocked the Willamette Valley wine industry. Moises is a really respected, longtime vineyard manager who in 2024, last year, started his own business, employs around 10 people, and was just pulled out of his truck, and as far as I know, is in Tacoma now, and just sent shockwaves through the valley.
Oh, wow.
I would say that right now, people are able to get by. Workers are being extremely careful. What I'm hearing is that they're keeping their head down. They're going to work. They're getting their work done. They're going home. They're trying not to be visible. It's kind of a reign of terror with agriculture workers. And it's a busy time in the vineyard right now, but I think there's a lot of concern about what could possibly happen come harvest. Right now, I haven't heard anything about raids, about people being picked up in the last week or two. There's a lot of uncertainty about what ICE is up to and what their policy is on agriculture. It's gone back and forth. You might recall that after hearing from some very big agricultural interests, the administration said it was going to pull back on raids with agriculture workers. But then Kristi Noem said, no, we're going to keep on doing it. So just tons of uncertainty, tons of fear. And just one more concern for an industry that's, going through some tough times.
Yeah, I don't think many people outside the Oregon wine industry understand how small it is, in a sense, like how everybody knows each other, and how there are some vineyards who are literally, it's like 4 people, and then they hire everybody else in cycles. I mean, one of my favorite vineyards literally puts out a volunteer call out for harvest.
Right.
And it's just like, that's the way that works. So I can only imagine the slimmest of margins. They're doing it not to get rich. They're doing it because it's like there's something wrong with them, That's what, like, they're just like, I'm going to make wine,
You're absolutely right. It's generally not a lucrative business. It's a hard business. There's I don't know, maybe this has been applied to other realms as well, but the old saying is that if you want to make a small fortune in the wine business, start with a big fortune. And it's not going to make you a lot of money. Yet people do continue to gravitate toward it. We did see a decline in number of wineries in Oregon, a small decline in the last couple of years after steady uptick. But, I just was out at a fairly new winery out in the Dundee Hills, and they're investing, tens of millions. These are people who came here with money. They're investing tens of millions into it. So hope springs eternal. The lure is great. It's a place where you can make amazing wine. And so it continues to draw folks to it, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, despite all the gloomy news, I did see that Willamette Valley was named the best wine region in the world, like literally above Champagne, France. That's kind of crazy. Was it VinePair or something like that?
Yeah.
That's got to count for something, right? Better than Champagne, France. I mean, I know we don't put too much stock on these types of lists, but still. Number one.
Yeah, that's a pretty respectable publication to be getting that honor from. And the Willamette Valley continues to get great reviews for the wines. Oregon wine is, I think I can confidently say, it's better than ever. The quality of the wine making has constantly improved. People have put enormous resources into it. And if you pull a bottle of Oregon wine off the shelf, it's going to be good wine. And it's a beautiful place to visit, of course. I will say, though, I hope that those kinds of notices in the press are effective, because Oregon wine is struggling right now to get visitors. I was just talking to a winery executive this week and getting a little bit of an update on how things are going this year as far as visitorship goes. And it's not looking good at all. We're still way down from pre-pandemic times. And in Oregon, that's a really important component of businesses. Direct sales are super important. You get the higher margins on them. Some wineries rely on them for a substantial portion of their sales. So it's a struggle.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we return, some possible Oregon wine trends on the horizon. Women in Science PDX is an all-volunteer organization that provides connection, community, and career development within STEM fields to women and other gender minorities. But you don't have to be a science professional or a student to take part, because they're open to all STEM supporters and allies who are passionate about equity and equality within STEM fields. They host fun quarterly networking mixers and monthly happy hours. They also have an online Slack channel for virtual discussions. If this sounds like something you'd like to be involved in, Women in Science PDX has volunteer positions available for all levels of time commitment. Check out their website, womeninsciencepdx.org, for more details about upcoming events and volunteering opportunities. That's womeninsciencepdx.org.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Well, what trends should we be watching over the next 5 years, you think? Are there any big changes that you see on the horizon for Oregon wine?
Well, I'll be interested to see what happens with lower alcohol or non-alcohol. Mm-hmm. We're starting to hear about that. I personally have never had a
non-alcoholic wine
that was good.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was going to tell you the tasting notes. I was like, well, let me tell you, because I actually did 1 month decide just like, oh, I'm just not going to drink.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, most of my social life was built at that point around hanging out at a wine bar with friends. And so I like dipped in. I don't remember the brands, of course, but I just remember being like, oh, grape juice, like unsweetened grape juice. That's what it felt like to me. But I remember tasting some that were like, this could be good. That's like,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's what it always like. I feel like it's in its infancy. I've definitely had some non-alcoholic beers that are pretty good. Like I'm like, this is fine. Like I could drink this in the river and be fine. But like the wine is not there yet for me.
I agree. Yeah, no, I find non-alcoholic beers, at least some of them, very palatable
Yeah.
and satisfying. I haven't explored wine as much. I bring probably more skepticism to non-alcoholic wine, but I've heard that one of Oregon's bigger producers is about to come out with a non-alcoholic or low alcohol wine. Yeah, I gotta.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
Well, I can't tell you because I haven't had a chance to confirm it.
I'm gonna guess it's Argyle. I'm just guessing that. Well, or A to Z. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Am I close? Am I close?
I can't say. I like the guesses though.
Well, we've heard a lot about how climate change and especially wildfires have had a huge impact on vineyards in recent years, like at the 2020 fires. So many gallons and gallons of Pinot Noir were just dumped because they were ruined. And we're forecasting another destructive season this year. How is the wine industry adapting?
Gosh, there's a lot to say about climate change and wildfires. 2020 was terrible, of course. The smoke was bad, and a lot of grapes weren't picked. A lot of grapes that were picked didn't get made into wine or didn't get made into the wine that they thought they might be made into. A lot of Pinot Noir got made into rosé, where you extract less from the grape, and so maybe you can minimize the smoke impact. I will say that wineries learned a lot about how to deal with smoke that year. And there's been a lot of research. Oregon State University is one of the leaders in research into smoke impact on grapes. And wineries are feeling more confident about dealing with smoke than they used to. So that's kind of a plus. They still don't want it, of course.
Yeah.
But they feel better about being able to work through it. An interesting aspect of climate change in Oregon is that over the long run, it's been good for Oregon wine.
Yeah, I've noticed that we're making a lot more whites too, which I gotta say, I really like.
It used to be that in Oregon, when the modern Oregon wine industry was getting going in the 1960s and early 70s, it was a crapshoot. You didn't know if you were going to be able to really make decent wine in a given year. Rains would come in September and cold, and you'd have frost in April. And the season was just, it was a lot chancier. We were much more a marginal climate for winemaking 50, 60, 70 years ago. And we get consistently good vintages now. It's rare that there's a vintage in Oregon that isn't accommodating to making good wine. So that's been a plus. Of course, we're at a moment in time.
Yeah.
And, 10, 20, 40 years from now, that moment will have gone by and it'll be hotter. And what happens then is a big question. Greg Jones is a wine climatologist of great renown who is an Oregonian, is the president of Abasella Winery now down in the Umpqua. And he's talked about new varieties becoming more prominent in Oregon. We are seeing more white wine, more emphasis on white wine. You're right about that. I'm hearing more about Sauvignon Blanc.
I was about to say,
from Oregon.
Yeah, which we never really have. And I've seen a lot more Chardonnay, which is really interesting because I feel like California made people hate Chardonnay and Oregon's doing the opposite. Like, I feel like every sommelier has just been like, no, but we're really, this is good. This is good. I swear. It's not a butter bomb.
Absolutely. I remember that movement, the Anything But Chardonnay, the ABC movement. And yeah, I wrote a cover story in the Business Journal, I think it was like 6 years ago, about Chardonnay and how people were talking about how Oregon could do really well with Chardonnay. And that's certainly been borne out. Our Chardonnays get tremendous reviews, and critics and folks who love wine love them because they are different from that classic California style of Chardonnay that's heavily oaked, and they're more interesting. I am a little bit, I wouldn't say skeptical, but careful about like how far we'll be able to get with Chardonnay. We're still, I think it's like 2/3, maybe even 70% of our vineyards are Pinot Noir.
But I've seen that. I mean, I've been living here for almost 20 years, and I remember hitting the vineyards. It was just like, can I just get anything but Pinot Noir? Can I try something else? It was just nonstop Pinot Noir. It made me hate Pinot Noir, Pete.
Oh, no.
Like, I just got to a point where I was just like, I can't.
What about Gamay? Have you tried Gamay?
Yeah, I like Gamay. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan. I'm a big Gamay fan. I think it's a tremendous variety and would love to see more of it planted and more of it made.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're actually talking about wine because I like drinking wine. I don't want to talk about the business side. That's so boring. So I'm so glad we actually get to talk about wine. I do want to just do a quick shout out, though. Patty Green Cellars in 2020, they were one of the vineyards that they lost something like 12,000 gallons of their Pinot Noir. And so they just were stuck with all these smoky grapes. And so they made whiskey. And we got our hands on a bottle. And Pete, have you had it? It's actually pretty good. It's good. I was like, okay, it's strong. I mean, it's liquor. It's like you got to sip this, but it's pretty great. And it just showed the resilience and the resourcefulness of our industry. Like, even when they were down, they're just like, we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
When life gives you smoky grapes, we're going to make whiskey,
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as I was saying, I think that folks are now, they're more confident that they can get through stuff. But as I said, they don't want to have to deal with it. That's for sure.
Well, before we wrap up, I just have to know, Pete, I want to hear favorite glass of wine. And then I want to hear favorite vineyard. And of course, there's no favorites. They're all great. But like, if you were taking someone from out of town, this is your beat. I want to know where you would take them.
Well, I am a business writer who writes about these businesses. So I kind of have to be careful about naming names. But I will say this. I started in the wine business, actually, on the public relations side. And I once represented some Oregon wineries. Mm-hmm. So those wineries that I go back a long ways with remain favorites of mine. So a couple of them are, shout out to my friends at Argyle and at Sokolblosser, who both make wonderful wines. Recently, I've had a good wine from a winery called Residence. They're actually a French-owned winery. And Domaine Drouin makes amazing wines. Ponzi.
In Portland?
Yeah. Domaine Drouin, Oregon is outstanding. Great wines. I mean, there are so many. I did a drive recently. As far as where to go, I was visiting a new vineyard called the Lucid Wild Estate. And I went on this road through the Dundee Hills. It's Warden Hill Road. And I was just like, I had to stop and just look around and think like, God, this is so beautiful. This is such an amazing place. So do the drive along Warden Hill Road in the Dundee Hills. Take your friends there, with the designated driver, because there's lots of wineries along the way. And you're going to want to hit a bunch of them. And just pick out random wineries along that road and you'll have a great time.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Pete. I appreciate you coming on and talking to us a little bit about the state of the industry, sharing some of your picks. And we'd love to have you back again with better news.
Yeah, well, and if you find a non-alcoholic wine that you like,
I'll forward it,
let me know. I'll do the same.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our podcast production team this week was John Notariani, Julia Fiaioni, Noah Snyderman, and myself. Our Hey Portland newsletter editors were Rachel Monahan and Natalia Aldana. Our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by Carl Christensen, all the kimonos, as well as Sarah the Instrumentalist, Timothy Infinite, and Gregory David, courtesy of Epidemic Sound. Tomorrow, we're going to have another special episode for you featuring all of the CityCast hosts, and then we're taking Friday off for the holiday, but we're going to be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.